The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports.
Indiana dominates Purdue inside of Assembly Hall.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh my goodness, this is raw reaction. The game just ended. I hit record. This is coming out to you as soon as I possibly can. Indiana upsets Purdue 73-58. And there were so many different trends in this game, and we didn't know what to expect in this game, right? Coming into it, you had the week off, right? If you're IU, didn't have the midweek game. Things were just not going well. Everybody seemed to just kind of punt on the season and wait to see who the next head coach is going to be. But I've been telling you that we still had tournament hopes, right? The win against Michigan State was solid. Yeah, you backed it up with the loss to UCLA, but you had a few more chances, and this was one of them. And you take down Purdue 73-58, dominate the second half, and really play one of your best games of the year. And I think Mike Woodson, I'm going to start with him. I think he deserves a ton of credit in this game. There was a different game plan, there was a different strategy, and there was a different level of execution, right? You start talking about the guys that start this game: Miles Rice, Anthony Leo, Malik Renew, Luke Goody, Trey Galloway. Those are your starters in this game, with Mbako and Ballo coming off the bench. And Mackenzie Mbako didn't touch the floor in the second half. And Umar Ballo came in only when Malik Renew got in late foul trouble, yes, but more of just, hey, I need a rest. You saw Malik on the bike a couple of times, and they played Umar Ballo because they had to, not because they wanted to. And more on that coming up in just a moment. But this was your best win of the year. I thought the Michigan State win was fantastic. It was on the road, and one that I'm not going to say had to have, but one that was nice to have. This one at home against Purdue, you had to have. And I want you to think about this, right? Both games against Purdue have been close. You had every chance to beat them at their place when you went there just a couple of weeks ago, and you couldn't get it done. You come back onto Assembly Hall after a week off of games. That crowd was electric, and you give them something to cheer about, and that becomes one of the toughest places to play in college basketball. Some of the stats that jump off the page as I continue to say we dominated Purdue, because we did. We started out the game nicely. Purdue made a huge run, right? What was it? 21-3, 21-4, right? Was the run at the end of the first half. We're thinking, well, here we go. It's over. Purdue did what they do. It's over. We're down 37-25 at the half. Ain't no way we come back and win this game. And all of a sudden, here come the Hoosiers. For the first time this year, we decide to play with some effort and energy coming out of the locker room. 28-3 was the run to start this second half, as Indiana ends up just running away with this thing, outscoring them 48-21 in the second half. Listen to that again. 48-21 in the second half alone. And it all started on the defensive end of the floor. Listen to some of these numbers for Indiana in this game. You shoot 52% from the floor. That'll get it done. Didn't shoot great from downtown, but you didn't need it. Why? Because you had 44 points in the paint. 44 of your 73 come from inside the painted area, compared to Purdue's 18. The game plan was simple. We're going to get down low. We're going to get to our big guys, and we're going to lay it in. We're going to get to the rim. We're going to get to the basket and make you defend us or make you foul us. And Purdue, in this losing streak that they've been on, they don't have interior defense. They've not been able to stop anybody inside the lane. And Malik Renew had a great day. He had 15 points, didn't miss a shot, had just the one free throw attempt, but also had 6 rebounds and 4 assists in 24 minutes played, did Malik Renew. It was simple. Indiana wanted him to be in the game, him to get the basketball, and nobody else needs to be involved. And yes, they had to get him the ball, but the game plan was give it to Malik and get out of the way. And that's exactly what they did, getting 44 points in the paint. But then to start that second half, yes, you got a bunch of points in the paint, but you also got good looks because you continued to turn them over. Man, Braden Smith was in hell all day for Purdue. One of the best point guards in the country was miserable for 40 minutes. And shout out to Miles Rice. Yes, Miles Rice, who I think played probably his best game of the year today altogether. His shooting numbers were not great, but he still got 12 points, still got 2 boards, had an assist, did not turn the ball over, and locked down Braden Smith, who, by the way, had just 8 points, 2 of 8 shooting, did have 5 assists, but he had 6 turnovers. That matches his season high for what I would say is most likely the best point guard, top 3 point guard in all of college basketball. And that is going out. That credit goes to Miles Rice, man. And that's what I've been saying all year. It starts on the defensive end of the floor. You play with high effort on defense, communication on defense. That was a big part of it too. When Purdue went on that run, we lost that communication. We lost a little bit of that edge, and that's when they went on their run to end the first half. We came out in the second half, completely different team. When you do those things, this Indiana team is good enough to win big games. Obviously, you just upset a top 25 team 73-58 in dominating fashion. You can prove, and we just did, that we are a good team. And then when you have good defensive effort and you have good defensive stops, it leads to high effective offense. And yes, a lot of credit goes to our offense, yes, but Purdue couldn't stop a toddler, man. They could not do anything in that second half. And one of the best halves we've seen all season long from this Indiana team. One of the best games we've seen all season long from this Indiana team. And we upset Purdue 73-58. The crowd was electric. That place was as loud as I've heard it all season long. And we may have just saved the season with a win over Purdue. Was it the best win? Absolutely. I think it was because of the rivalry, because of being at home, and because of the stakes of you had to have it. Indiana upsets Purdue, dominates Purdue, just manhandles the Boilermakers 73-58. I think this is the best win of the year. I think it was our best performance of the year in front of the best crowd we've seen all year. And we're going to talk more this week about what happened in this game and why it happened and why it took so long, right? The third week of February for this to all come together. But the fact of the matter is, if you play like you did today, if you play like you did against Michigan State, you can get to the tournament and you can win some games in the NCAA tournament. And we've already heard the narrative around a lot of the fan base, even some of the players as well. Can we send Woody out with a tournament run? Can we at least give him a tournament appearance on the way out? And no, it wouldn't be his first by any means, but this would be a unexpected tournament appearance given how most of this season has gone. Back in the preseason, we were talking about a 5 seed or better for this Indiana squad. 5, 4, maybe even a 3 seed because of the talent that's on this roster. Well, that just hasn't come to fruition. And the way the season played out, even all the way back in non-conference play, we started to have some really major concerns. But you win against Michigan State on the road. You beat Purdue at your home place. You've got 2 big-time resume wins. And all of a sudden, we're right back in the conversation of being possibly off the bubble and firmly in to the NCAA tournament. According to Joe Lunardi on Friday, again, this was on the 21st. He'll come out with another one, I believe, Tuesday morning for those of you, if you're listening, watching, coming into the new week. That'll be on the 25th. So a few days separated. But this was as of Friday, February 21st. Indiana was part of the next 4 out. So we're on the bubble right now for the NCAA tournament. According to this, we would be the 6th team out of the tournament. Well, now you pick up that big resume win that you needed. You had a couple, you needed another one, and now you've got it with Purdue as you beat them 73-58. Start to look around some of the teams in the bubble with you. Xavier, they're currently playing as we speak. They were up double digits last time I looked on their game here on a Sunday afternoon. They're right above you in the bubble line. They're up by 12 as we speak, as we record this. Georgia is in the first four out. They lost over the weekend. SMU's in the first four out. Oklahoma's in the first four out. They got a big win over a top 25 Mississippi State team. North Carolina's in first four out. They beat Virginia. Woohoo, ACC, man. Real tough stuff over there. So we not only moved ourselves up on the bubble, we had some things happen in front of us too. And I still think you're going to need some of those things to happen if we want to make the tournament. But you just pick up another quad one win. Believe that makes it 4 now for us. And you look at what we have coming up in the remaining schedule. It's not all that bad. You've got Penn State at home coming up. Believe that's Thursday or Wednesday rather, inside of Assembly Hall. You then make your one West Coast trip. You play at Washington, who is not all that good. They are currently the worst team in the Big Ten standings. So you have a real big opportunity there. You do have to go to Oregon. Okay. You got to go to Oregon, where they just beat Wisconsin in overtime. Great win for Oregon, who started off the year hot, took a major dip, and now they're back. And you got to go to their place before you come home versus Ohio State. I'm looking right now at the current net rankings. This is as of the 22nd, so this is not updated as of Indiana's win over Purdue, but this will be updated with Oregon's win over Wisconsin. You put Oregon now, who is trying to find them. They're 32nd in the net, so that'll be a quad one game. Also trying to find exactly where Ohio State stands as of right now. I had this pulled up earlier and I lost where they went. So I'll get that for you in just a second. They look to be further down than I thought they were. Ohio State was, or maybe I just missed them. But regardless, Indiana still has an opportunity with that road game at Oregon, right? Playing that game out in, oh, there they are. Okay. They're literally right there. Oregon's 32, Ohio State's 34. So you get one on the road and one at home. You still have 2 quad one opportunities left if you're Indiana. So you still have an opportunity to get into the tournament. And right now you had your 4th quad one win. Doesn't matter about those losses in quad one, 11 of them to be exact. It's about getting wins. Is this enough to get us in? I don't know. I think we could possibly be on the first or the last 4 in when Lenardi's new bracketology comes out, and you can use whichever one you want to. But I think if the season ended right now, which of course it doesn't, but if it ended right now, it would be really tough for me not to put Indiana in, given our recent success, given the win you just had, given the win against Michigan State. Good news is you have more chances to prove it. Bad news is you've got a game in there that you just can't afford to lose. 2 games, really, that you can't afford to lose. Penn State and Washington, who are the second and worst teams in the Big Ten.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Monday night will feature some fun NBA action. You can get out on the Pacers are 4-point home dogs to the Nuggets. The Pistons favored by 1 in what should be a tightly contested match with the Clippers. That was my Midwest coming out. A tightly contested match. And the 76ers are 2.5-point favorites over the Bulls. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
The Houston Cougars might be a month away from the heart of March Madness.
You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars.
I went back to watch Iowa State a second time on Sunday afternoon. And I got to say, I weirdly left that one more encouraged than I might have been Saturday afternoon when the game ended in real time. For those that might not have clicked into it, Houston beat up Iowa State team They did it 68-59 on Saturday afternoon. College game day was in town. Great time, right? And Iowa State was down their leading 2 scorers, one of which comes off the bench. I think it total accumulated to like 32 points per game, like theoretically a lot. And so that Houston was in a close contest worried a lot of people. I think people concerned over it, yada yada. Couple things. One, Iowa State's one of those teams a lot like Houston. It was very visible in the second rewatch when you kind of know what's happening. You're paying attention to a few other kinds of details. A lot like Houston, frankly, a lot like Texas Tech, a lot like Auburn, a lot like Alabama. I haven't seen much Duke, but I think some like them as well. These top teams in the country where the culture is the biggest factor, right? And so you're playing a team down a couple guys, and it doesn't feel like it, certainly on the defensive end at all. Iowa State scored just 59 points. That might have been it, but the defense they played on Houston was just the defense they're going to play on everyone. Houston played a lot last year without Terrence Arsenault, the last part of the year without JoJo Tugler, and had to play a Sweet 16 game, primarily 3/4 game without Jamal Shed. People weren't shedding tears for them. Texas Tech's been through their own kinds of stuff. Frankly, they played Houston without JT Toppin and won, right? We've seen teams overcome this a lot. This top tier of teams overcome things a lot. And so on the second rewatch, I'll get into something that stuck out to me in a second, but I got kind of caught up in I can't believe we're this close in the second half, whatever, live on Saturday. In a second rewatch, I think it feels a lot calmer to be like, okay, this is just that good a program, a lot like Houston's that good a program, a lot like, again, these top few dogs in the country right now are all those kinds of programs. Now, there was a stretch in this game where Houston could have put them away in a big kind of way and did not. With about 14, I have it written down here, 14-14 left in the second half. Houston scores to make it 45-29, and Iowa State calls a timeout. Come out of the timeout, and Lipsy, it's a 3. Then they come down in sharp travels. And then there's some back and forth. And then Uzan has a pass stolen away on the entry pass. Lipsy has a layup. Quick Tugler miss, ends up getting a foul going for the rebound. Surprise. And another sharp foul on the ensuing offensive possession for Iowa State. Baseline out of bounds play leads to a backdoor cut for an easy layup for them. Another turnover for Houston on a Cryer high post entry. Momcilovic hits a layup on the other end. These are consecutive possessions. Boom, 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 right? And that's several turnovers in a row. You end up getting down to a foul on, I think it was Sharp gets Momcilovic, and he's shooting free throws to get it to 45-40 with 11:20 to go. That's roughly a third of your season high turnovers. You had 17 turnovers on Saturday, and roughly a third of them come in this 3-ish minute window when you were up 16 and the lead is cut down to just 5. That's a moment you could have sunk them. You could have taken the lid off the Fertitta Center, really blown that game out the window. Instead, Iowa State hunkered down, turned you over a bunch of times, and got the game back to just a couple of possessions. And did you eventually extend the arm and keep them away? Yes. Were you able to kind of put the game away at the end with a big LJ Cryer performance? Yes. In fact, it felt like the solution once Houston calls a timeout at just after that 11:20 mark, the solution looked like to me was Houston goes, okay, we're not doing a bunch of this passing stuff anymore, because the more they're moving the ball, the more they're turning it over, right? They set up in a couple space and pace kind of motions, maybe waste and dribble out some clock, space out, kick it to one pass, Sharp, Cryer, etc., and let that dude work. Once it was clear that it was going to be Cryer's kind of day in that situation, Cryer became that guy. Uzan also, I think, Uzan was super aggressive in the first half at 14 points. And it felt like in the second half, once he was turning the ball over, he got a little bit more timid with it. It felt more like November Uzan, frankly, if being really honest. And then suddenly there's a moment after that 3-minute stretch where he was like, screw it, I'm going to go to the hole. And he attacked the rim, right? He got the rim and a great left-handed layup, finish over the top. Frankly, really great left-hand layup, given the fact that he had floater blocked earlier in the half. And then the next offensive possession is big, 15-foot. He steps back about 15 feet backwards behind the 3-point line for a big step back 3. And that kind of got his swagger back a little bit. You kind of saw his like body language change a little bit after that. Again, seeing the second time and knowing what's coming at the end of the game, it's very clear that was kind of a big moment for him. Obviously, Iowa State's defense forced those turnovers. So I don't mean to say this as if like not to give credit for the other team or whatever. I do think that had Houston even played just like even keel trading baskets basketball for that 3-minute stretch from 14-14 down to about 11-20, you're looking at a blowout of a game. And I understand that like 3-minute stretches are part of it, right? But ultimately, I think that was the moment where I was hoping for a Houston blow the doors off this thing, would have settled for keeping it at about a 15-point lead the rest of the way. And instead, Iowa State came back and made it a game on great defense out of Lipsy, great defense out of Josh Jefferson, and great defense and great scoring out of Momcilovic. Now, I will say like Lipsy and Jefferson ended up with a bunch of steals. I think Jefferson had 7 as a power forward because of those kinds of troubles Houston was having getting the ball into that high post in the 15 to 25 foot area. Both Lipsy and Jefferson were able to get a bunch of pokes and steals in that. I'm sure they're drawing stuff up to fix that and having different fixes or whatever. I can go through what I would intuitively do, but I think it would be more interesting to see what they do Monday night against Tech, because Tech's a great defensive team as well, and they'll have something drawn up to kind of counter that, I'm sure. I will say that ultimately this was a gritty, gutty win that Houston's going to look back on, I think, in a good kind of way, moving forward. As I look forward to Tech this weekend, again, all these top-tier programs in America have had wins and had, tough games, et cetera, without top guys. And so I don't think they're going to dwell too much on that as they get into Tech on Monday night.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Monday night will feature some fun NBA action. You can get out on the Pacers are 4-point home dogs to the Nuggets. The Pistons favored by 1 in what should be a tightly contested match with the Clippers. That was my Midwest coming out. A tightly contested match. And the 76ers are 2.5-point favorites over the Bulls. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So we were both at the Bama-Kentucky game yesterday. Bama gets a win. It's funny, Michael Southern, who I went to the game with the other day, Tide Hoops History, go give him a follow. His seats were like 2 seats in front of me. The game starts. Alabama's down 20-9. We score the first bucket of the game. Then the next thing you know, we're down double digits again. And I look at Michael and I'm like, are we going to quit doing this? And so from that point to halftime, and I'm doing quick math, so bear with me, we went on a 38-20 run. Now, some people may say that's not really a run. A run is when you're like 18-2 or something. But we outscored, I guess I should say we outscored them 38-20 because I think the halftime score was 47-40. And then we go on to score 96 points. It probably could have been close to 100 if, we weren't sort of dribbling the ball out. But at the end of the game, but a good win. It's Mark Sears is finally finding his place. Nate Oates has talked about it. He's gone from the primary ball handler really to off ball kind of guy. And that's great because he put up 35 against Missouri and what was a terrible output for the team overall, but he puts up 30 in this game. We can talk about some of the boneheaded moments in game a little bit later. But right now, I want to heap some praise on these guys. We talked about Cliff Amore, that, hey, we hadn't been getting enough out of him. So what does he do? Give us 11 and 15, and he's going against some 7 foot, 13 foot gargantuan dude from, I mean, you know, when they show, all I could think was like, is the giant from, is Goliath from the Bible, was he from like Nottingham or something? That's who he kind of reminded me. That guy was monstrous. And kudos to the students for the USA chants during this.
Biblical history is not my thing, but I'm pretty sure no one from the Bible is from Nottingham. That's Robin Hood. But
knew it was something like that. I was close.
Robin Hood was,
But regardless, maybe the giant was from Nottingham and he just didn't like play a big role in the Robin Hood story. But
the newest testament.
Huh?
Robin Hood would be the newest testament.
The testament, Cliff Notes. So anyway, but he was just so big. And I mean, he was a banger. And that guy was coming down and just like, he was looking for Cliff. He banged more with Cliff than he did with anybody else. He could have pushed a lot of people around, but he wanted to bang with Cliff. And he just pushed him around. And the student chant of USA, USA on his free throws, I thought, that's this. And also the 4 guys behind me who kept, every time he was shooting free throws, they'd go, beans on toast.
See, that's better. I think the whole student section should have done it. A terrible British accent would have been great from the whole student section. I didn't get the USA. I mean, we don't have an all USA team either. I mean, Cliff is
but we've never gone to war with Nigeria in my limited historical knowledge. We've gone to war with England.
That's true. That was a while back. That was more Old Testament history.
Hey, Minnesota still puts up their football national championships. I bet you that. So we're going to put up our war wins. And but yeah, that kid was big, and the 4 kids behind us they're like, beans on toast, shine your shoes, governor. That that it got me. I was like, yeah, I'd miss a free throw if I heard that.
That's good. How about Cliff with a hard hat last night? I think that's his first. And I think that gets back to the Cliff Amore story, right? I mean, you sign Cliff Amore not because he's going to be a great scorer, but because he's going to do all the dirty work, that he could potentially lead the league in rebounds and block shots and all these things that add up in Nate's hard hat points. But Cliff hadn't won a hard hat. Obviously, it's tough to win a hard hat when you got guys like Mo Diabate and Grant Nelson who are doing the hard hat things around the clock. But Cliff winning a hard hat, I think, was as good of a sign for this team as Mark Sears' explosive scoring. Mark now has 65 points this week. And I think those two coming around are huge, because now we're getting down to what just 4 regular season games left, Luke. This is crunch time. We're 4 games away from, okay, now you've got to play your best basketball of the year. So Cliff winning a hard hat, Mark scoring 35 and then 30. These are good signs that this March explosion we've been waiting on is just around the corner.
Yeah, and then Aiden Holloway, what was he, 5 of 12 from beyond the arc? I mean, and that's the way he needs to play. He missed a couple of open. There was one where he shook the Kentucky guard out of his shoes, and he stepped back. And if he makes that, the place goes nuts.
I know the play. That was what I said. If I told my wife that was the game with, I'm like, if that went in, that was going to be on SportsCenter.
I mean, it was just. And I'll tell you something else Amore did last night. I mean, most of his shots were dunks. And again, kudos for a double-double, 11 and 15 boards. And also just having to face off against that Godzilla of a human being that Kentucky has. But Amore caught a rebound, sort of like, it was almost Saquon Barkley-esque, where he caught a rebound and it was like it came to him over his shoulder. And then he just went up and dunked it one-handed behind him. I mean, do you know how hard it is to do that?
Well, I wouldn't know, actually.
No, I have no idea.
I have no idea.
I have zero idea how hard.
I assume it's hard. I don't know.
But then Aiden Sherrill. All right. I finally figured out what it feels like to me when Aiden Sherrill gets in the game. because I like him a lot, but I want y'all to bear with me because I mean this is the most complimentary thing I can say. I've had 4 kids. It's like, and I grew up around a lake and swimming and all that. So it's like, well, you know your kids can swim, and kids can pretty naturally swim. But when you first put your kid in the pool and you're not, and they're like reaching for you, you're not going to reach back because you're trying to teach them, they panic a little bit, and then they sort of get it. And you're like, okay, they're not swimming laps or anything, but they get it. That's how I feel when Aiden comes in the game, when Aiden Sherrill comes in, like, it's uncomfortable. It's like, I'm like, oh God, but I got to let him go. It's like I have any power over it, but I'm like, I've just got to let him go out there and do his thing. And then I'm like, hey, he's not doing a bunch. He's doing enough. I was like, yo, what? I mean, I wanted to turn around and go, look at my boy. My boy's out there swimming. and he's doing so. And then here's the most complimentary thing I can say. I think he only played 6 minutes, and it felt like he played double that.
Yeah, for a 6'11", I think it's strange to call a 6'11" guy young, but he plays young. He does. I mean, I think that's what you're getting at. He plays young. He hasn't had the minutes I think we assumed that he might get before the year started. But I'm convinced of this, and I think a lot of Cliff Amore, and I've been saying, hey, Cliff is going to be one of the reasons we achieve great things in March. I believe that. I believe Cliff Amore is going to be a huge part of that. But I also think this, even though we've only seen glimpses of it, when Aiden Sherrill is a senior, when he's been playing for 4 years, he's going to be better than Amore. He'll be a more impactful, better interior player than even Cliff Amore is now, which I consider a heck of a compliment.